Should the ACC step in to prevent Miami from taking Darian Mensah from Duke? Especially, let's be honest, after Duke stole Mensah from Tulane. We have ourselves a dilemma.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day right here on the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. We're going to be discussing everything that's going on with the Darian Mensah situation. And to be honest, there are many different layers to this that a lot of people don't want to talk about because they're biased. They either want Miami to get him or they don't. I'm going to be the neutral observer, but since it is an ACC team that's going to possibly lose their star quarterback to another one, and it is Florida State's arch rival in the Miami Hurricanes, I wanted to talk about this to start this show before I really got into Florida State specifically, because this is a precedent that will not only impact the Atlantic Coast Conference, no matter what happens, but the entirety of college football. Obviously, Florida State is under that realm, and I'm curious how this goes. So here's the scenario. There are many different people that believe, and just about everybody. I even spoke to Alex Dono today, runs Locked On Canes. Nobody thinks that Miami isn't culpable in some way, shape, or form for trying to get the receiver. By the way, there's a receiver from Duke that's a stud too. He's all of a sudden transferring. I wonder where he's going to go. And there's the injunction from a judge that's a Duke grad. He's married to somebody that's a librarian at Duke. Like, this has layers upon layers. But everybody thinks that Miami is tampering. Well, it's a bigger deal because Miami can win it. If they get a quarterback, they can win it. So people care more. Let's be honest. Not as many people cared when Duke tampered with Tulane last year. That's a P6 or G16. Nobody cares. And Duke's not thought of as a football school. Obviously, it's a hoops program. Nobody cared. But now everybody cares because it's Miami. I get it. Like, Mensah is better than Carson Beck, in my opinion, no doubt. He had over 3,900 passing yards this past season. He's a very special player. If he goes to Miami, they're right back in the title hunt. 100%. Are they tampering? Sure. But you can't hammer Miami without hammering Duke. And what did they get? What penalty? Somebody want to show me what happened to them? Nothing. And to that end, I want to share a post on X. I found this just randomly, and to be honest with you, I thought it was pretty wild. This is from Blue Devils Nation. For those of you that are listening to this, I'll read it out. But this is a guy that just went hog wild, and probably a little overboard because it's a very biased post. Again, the name of the person on this is Blue Devil Nation. That pretty well narrows it down on his bias. But more fuel on the fire of Miami tampering. Duke wide receiver Cooper Barkate entered the portal. There had been indications this would happen after Darian Mensah's decision. It reflects how badly the Duke program was damaged by Mensah's midnight hour decision. Both players had told the staff they'd be returning. According to key source, both players were involved in tampering. Here's the kicker. Miami is thought to be Barkate's destination, so guess who did the tampering? Mensah was entered into the portal yesterday. This whole situation is hard to keep up with at the moment, so I'll update as I learn. At this point, nobody would blame Duke for going scorched earth legally. If nothing else, they may be forced to raise this issue into the spotlight, showing how broken the system is now. There are many moving parts here, and it begs for a comment from the ACC itself. That's why I brought up the ACC, by the way. The only folks who see this as positive are the Canes faithful. Miami's involvement objectively shows cheating, the lack of contract enforcement, and a team's ability to take out an opponent from competing with them is as uneven a playing field as one can find. By Barkate and Mensah saying they'd return and leaving the day the transfer portal opened, Miami had best hope collusion issues aren't addressed. If Miami goes unchallenged, here is not admonished by objective observers. You are allowing one program with a sordid past of cheating to set a very ugly precedent. Miami's willingness to push contracts they may find enforceable is a win-at-all-costs scenario driven by an out-of-control ego. I'm just going to cut it off there and just kind of let it go. You get the point. It's a very awkward scenario. This guy obviously went through, as I said before I started reading, where's the part about Duke stealing Mensah from Tulane? Was Tulane mentioned? Was any cheating by Duke mentioned? No. As I often say, fan is short for fanatic. This guy isn't just a fanatic. He is dyed in the wool. I don't care about anybody else, Duke guy. But that's how a lot of fans are for a lot of schools. There's Florida State fans like that too. There are Miami fans like that. But it still comes back to the same principle. Miami's probably cheating. I don't think that's very difficult to see, but you cannot punish them for the player that the school they're stealing him from, allegedly, stole that same player from another school the year before, and you didn't punish them. Would you try to get involved? Would you make a statement? Would you hide out in a corner? I'll admit I'm not an ACC conference supporter by any means, but they are in a rather tough spot here. They didn't pounce on Duke when they got the opportunity to get Mensah. All good for the conference. But now that it's inside the conference and you let Duke slide, how are they going to give support to Duke against Miami, somebody that's in their own league? And let's be honest, from a football perspective, is completely carrying the ACC right now. This is really wild. I don't know how this is going to end, but I do know the ACC kind of put itself in a bad spot. And I know Florida State fans, by the way, are not surprised by that. The ACC finds a way to screw it up. That's a fairly safe assumption until otherwise known. To that end, I want to ask one question here. Is there going to be any penalty at all for Miami? Because regardless of the Duke scenario, you have to look at it individually at some point. I don't know the school, but somebody's going to get hit eventually in some kind of penalty. When's it going to be? I'm not saying it's this one. I don't think it will be, but you have to set a precedent because, for an example, if Mensah and Barkate are allowed to transfer to the University of Miami, what's going to stop somebody else? Because Miami will obviously have their QB and a really good receiver. He had over 1,100 yards. Receiver's good. For somebody this spring, their quarterback gets hurt, rolls his ankle, breaks that sucker. He can't even go through spring ball. You don't know what the scenario is. We need another quarterback at minimum to be our backup. There's no transfer portal window. Are they going to go out and just say, screw it, and try to get a kid to come over and challenge the NCAA to see if they'll do anything about it? Miami basically did that with Xavier Lucas last year, the corner that played in the national championship game against the Indiana Hoosiers. At some point, there is no shortcut. Somebody has to come out and risk being sued. Yes, I'm pointing directly at the NCAA. Do your job. Enforce rules. Oh, no. At some point, there still has to be something. Again, I'm not saying it's Miami, but somebody's got to get a hammer so there's a thought of penalty. Right now, nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's a joke. It's a complete joke. We'll see what happens very soon. But right now, I don't have faith in the ACC helping itself, and I'll leave it at that. Is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. TurboTax is full service. You can have your taxes done for you with a trusted local expert from start to finish for the process without the stress or the guesswork that you would be doing if you did your taxes or if you just hired somebody you really didn't know much about. Instead of doing that, just spending hours trying to figure out all the things you need, get TurboTax, whether it's W-2, self-employment forms, or anything else. For a limited time, you can even have your taxes done by the local expert for $150 if you didn't have a TurboTax person do it for you last year. Just file by the 28th of February. Take your taxes seriously and get them off your plate so you can have your day back. Head over to turbotax.com/local to book your appointment with TurboTax today. As you can see, I have changed shirts and I have been doing some research, and that also means we are changing for the rest of the show. I wanted to get the stuff about Mensah out there, but the rest of the show is about Florida State and Malachi Marshall, the quarterback for the Noles. This is a very intriguing prospect. I finally had time to really break down some film, learn a bit about him, compare him to a few guys. go through some notes. I have some questions that I want to ask. I want to answer myself, and I want fans to answer. This is an intriguing guy. 6'2", 170 pounds, so he's light in the pants. Man, he's got a live arm. Quick release. He has some flaws like everybody else, but this is the situation that is probably going to drive this site and would with any other heading into a spring. You have multiple quarterbacks coming into your program that have experience, that have upside, that are mobile, that would fit Gus Malzahn's offense, and above all else, just give hope. So I was a little leery when I heard about Marshall. I was away when it happened that he committed. I didn't even know till like the next day. I was busy with 7-on-7, but man, this kid, he played at Iowa Western. They won the JUCO title, 33 touchdowns, 8 picks, 2,750 yards passing. This guy can sling it. And to be clear, he's mobile, but the vast majority of what I've seen from him, he will move to make a defender miss and still pass. Well, let me be very clear about that. I want to say it again. He will move to make a defender miss and then pass. He's not a run first and then I throw it sometimes guy. Want to get that out there because I know people are going to ask that on the YouTube page. It just come in and watch like 2 minutes or something. Not the case. And for the record, I'd love to show film, but we're not allowed to show anything that has ads on it or anything, so I can't show it, or I would. But Marshall's a pretty intriguing player. I think he's a guy that could honestly give Ashton Daniels a run for his money. But I went the holistic route here. I just flat out wrote down my own notes, and I'm just going to read them to you. This is exactly what I put immediately upon watching his film, going through it, watching multiple clips, etc. So here's my own personal evaluation, good, bad, and indifferent for Malachi Marshall. Throw first quarterback with a live arm, shorter release than most signal callers. When he's pressured, Marshall lets it fly with the same delivery as when he's under duress. Obviously, that's a good sign. Excellent at throwing seam patterns, hole shots, and back shoulder fades. Those difficult throws require a different level of velocity. Each play can be a little bit different, and to be successful, he was able to adjust. Marshall's ability to power up the RPMs when he needed to or to bring them down really gave me a sign that he understands the feel for playing quarterback. When he's moving, again, like I said a minute ago, it's usually to make a defender miss and extend the play before throwing the football. Here's my concern. As I noted at the beginning of this segment, he's 6'2", 170 pounds. So Malzahn likes to run his quarterbacks. And when I say run, designed interior running game. Marshall is not built for that at all. Will Gus be able to control himself and change his offense? And I use the word change definitively. You cannot call even one of those plays and expect it to go well. He's like a slot receiver playing quarterback. If you run him on the inside, every time you do it, he might make 3 guys miss. But the one time that he gets held up and a middle linebacker at 235 belts him, his season could be over when his collarbone's hanging off his outside of his neck or shoulder area. Like, he's not built for big hits at all. Will they allow themselves to completely change how they run the quarterback, or not hardly run him at all under Malzahn? I have concerns about that. So with that being stated, one generic topic here before I go through 7 questions. Will this be a full-blown quarterback competition? Sperry, obviously Ashton Daniels coming over from Auburn, and Marshall? I don't know. But with that in mind, here are 7 questions, and I'm going to approach it like they're at least looking at it. Hey, somebody's got to win the gig. And historically, Malzahn just lets the play from practice dictate what happens. I've seen him do it because I covered UCF. Like, he will do that. So who wins the job? No clue. I think if they have 3 guys, they might as well just let it battle itself out. Who stays healthy, who can run the offense and all that. I would still lean Daniels because he's a little bigger. And again, Gus, like most guys, is extremely stubborn. They want to run what they want to run. Daniels is bigger. He's more likely to absorb blows. Having stated that, I could see Marshall winning the job. I could see Sperry winning the job. There's different ways to look at it. So we'll see how it goes. Number 2, how does Marshall pick up the playbook? If he's going to compete, how quickly can he do so? Well, look at it this way. You're not going to be a guy that understands the situation right now because, you get the playbook, whether you do or I don't even know if he's enrolling fully for spring. I haven't asked him. I assume he is, but it doesn't make any difference. In today's world, I can just tell you this has been going on for years. Coaches get players the playbook and all that. And I assume, again, he'll be in spring. But if he's not, older kid, it's played a lot of football, he's going to be around Tallahassee. It would take care of itself. I don't care one way or the other. It's just the way it is. You have to have the playbook. I don't care what the NCAA says. Every guy gets the quarterback, early enrollee. Some guys a full year before they commit. They have the playbook. So how quickly does he assimilate to it? I have no idea. But if he picks it up, then he's got a shot. And I know a lot of people are going to compare him to whoever the latest run-pass quarterback that's been successful is, Diego Pavia, Trinidad Chambliss, etc. I'm not saying he's that guy, but he is dynamic. He'll make some plays. But a guy like Trinidad Chambliss, let's be realistic, or Diego Pavia, we can't expect anybody to come in and have that kind of success. But he does have traits in that regard. Number 4, will Florida State rotate quarterbacks or at least at some point play more than one quarterback in a game? I just about guarantee it. Gus has always done that. He has guys that get beat up. The quarterback position in his offense takes a lot of hits. That's why I brought up the stuff about Marshall a little bit ago. Do I think that is a great idea? No, I don't like it. But Gus, again, he's a stubborn guy. He wants to run his stuff. He wants the quarterback to run because it's an extra blocker. Beginning and end of conversation. He's been steadfast with that for 20 plus years. I highly doubt that's really going to change wholeheartedly. And if Marshall's not up to that task, he might rotate Daniels in. He might, like Sperry's a big dude. Maybe they use them, some in the goal line or something. Would that shock me? No. Probably wouldn't shock many of you either. Gus is not afraid to utilize his quarterbacks in a myriad of different ways to help the offense. He's one of the few guys that's been able to do that with some success. But the best quarterbacks he's had, like Nick Marshall when he was at Auburn in 2013, were make you miss guys that occasionally threw, and they had great offensive lines and running backs. It's going to be a veteran O-line. The running back room's going to be pretty darn good. So we'll see. But the pass receivers at Florida State this year, especially the starters, they're really good. They must be able to throw as effectively from the pocket, keywords here, from the pocket as they do on rollouts, misdirections, etc., and gotcha plays where we just fooled you. They have to be able to pass pro. Everybody in the stadium knows it's coming. Deliver the football on time, on rhythm. Those are the teams that win big. That's the expectation in Florida State. So I think Marshall's arm, Sperry's arm, Daniel's arm, they have the arm talent to do it. Now let's see if they can execute that stuff and keep the quarterback upright. Next up here, this question, it's not necessarily going to surprise you, but this is what it needs to be asked. Would Florida State pass more if they, let's say Marshall picks up the playbook, they're comfortable with him. Does he get just as much a chance? Like Daniels is a veteran, he's a grad student and all that. Would they let it rip if he wins the job right out of the gate? Or are they going to kind of milk it and be real patient before the Bama game to save everything? I know everybody likes to save plays before their first big game, but I think they would need Daniels, not as much, but Marshall, he needs to see it happen, physically in a game. I hope they let him just go out and let it rip if he wins the job, because that would just prove to him, hey, it's not just JUCO ball. I'm a guy, but now everybody in the stadium sees it. Everybody in the locker room sees it. The coaching staff sees it. I think that would be very important. Number 6, how does one project a junior college signature caller to P4? I get this question a lot, and it's a difficult one. There really isn't any way to definitively answer that. Every junior college situation is different. A buddy of mine, CJ, his son is a junior college quarterback in Mississippi, and he's getting ready. I think he's going down east to play at Norfolk State for Mike Vick. But I saw the film and I saw him throw. I'm like, that kid's got an arm. He could play. But at the same time, they don't get the same attention. It's not the same crowds. It's not the same environment. How do you project? And that's why so many junior college quarterbacks are overlooked. And I don't know the answer to it. All I can do is tell you what I saw in film, and that's a kid that can throw it. I mean, he's mobile. How he handles the off the field stuff, or any other junior college quarterback, and how he handles the ability, very important here, to take success and not let it go to his head. A lot of kids do that, regardless of where they come from, high school, JUCO, transfer portal. Can you handle success? Be modest, roll with the punches. And then, of course, the other side of that, if you have a bad series, a bad game, how do you respond? Are you still a leader? All that stuff is guessing. It's guessing. We don't know how that's going to go. And that also ties into my very last question. And this is the one that, I may word it slightly different every now and then, but it's really the same thing. What kind of teams will give Marshall issues? This is the same thing on why I always tell people it's impossible to grade quarterbacks. You can watch the arm talent all day long. All day. It does not matter. What matters is what happens behind the closed doors, chalkboard, video, film, extra preparation, extra reps, when nobody is allowed to watch. I'm talking about media. We get zero access to that, and that's probably 80-85% of why a quarterback will or will not be ultimately successful. It's the time behind closed doors, and they don't have pads on. They're not warmed up. They're not sweating. It's understanding concepts, reads, what not to do, when to take a sack, when to throw it away, all that stuff. So it's very difficult. The teams that give kids the most problems make it the most difficult with the mental stuff. They don't play man coverage. They mix it up. They run a combination of man and zone, and or they throw in some match defense, which is really complex for a lot of kids to grasp. That's Nick Saban's stuff that he ran at Bama. My guess is he didn't see a whole lot of that at the JUCO level, but I didn't go through all his game tapes. I wouldn't know. That's the one thing I'm concerned about. Like the third game when FSU plays Bama, that's a team that can give you some issues. They run some different variations of zone with their length and their athleticism that not everybody can do. They kind of, like Indiana runs a very similar defense. They'll play soft coverage on a play, at least you think at the snap, but then they'll squat on it, meaning they don't really backpedal or very, very lightly, and they charge downhill screen game. You might complete the pass, but your receiver just got belted. Is he going to be confident in you after you just set him up for failure? You have to be able to read the situation. Sometimes, again, take the sack or throw it away, run, whatever. Some of those zone coverage teams can give him fits, but you'll have to be able to beat tight man, and he's shown he can do that to a degree. Again, arm talent wouldn't be a problem with Malachi. He can spin it. But I'm curious when those teams start switching coverages after the snap, or he misreads something and like somebody gets a pick six, it looks like they're in press bail, and then the guy charges. Whoops, there goes. He's headed the other direction. That's a touchdown. How would he respond? Every quarterback has to go through that. It wouldn't just be him. Those are the plays that make you or they break you. Anyway, I'm going to go back through Malachi's film a little more, talk more about him down the road. But I just wanted to do a quick overview of him and kind of go through some things. And before I'm going to come back with just one more thing to talk about after the break. But know that Florida State's quarterback room this next year, from a pure talent perspective, will be better than it was last year. Definitely will be deeper. When we come back, I have a few thoughts about college football in the portal. That is next right here on Locked on Seminoles. Have you noticed how college football is now more quarterback centric? I wanted to add this while we talked about Marshall and everything else. Look around college football. I don't care which teams that you want to talk about. Which ones are the teams that really give you fits? Sure, they have good offensive and defensive lines, and I talk about trench play constantly. That'll always be number one. The basic bare minimum to win a championship, you got to have dudes in the trenches. I think we all know that. Having stated that, there's something else you need. Quarterback play, like I was just talking about with Marshall in the prior segment, he can spin it. if you can put your guys in the best position to win against quality competition, here's an example. In the national title game, Fernando Mendoza wasn't on his game, but he wasn't turning it over either. He got lucky. A couple of his throws were a little off. Miami got to him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the game, and this happened all 3 times that Miami lost this year, Carson Beck threw a pick, whether it was his fault, whether it was a receiver. There was always some form of miscommunication at the end of a Miami game when they lost. Literally, all 3. He had a pick at the end of all 3 games. With that, the most important pass anymore is a quarterback throwing the football out of bounds or in the dirt. I don't even care if it's intentional grounding. You cannot turn the ball over. Like if on that play that Carson Beck threw the pick, they were like Indiana's defense was getting a little tired. The O-line for Miami was outstanding. They kind of leaned on him a little bit. Even if they took a 5-yard penalty, 8-yard penalty there, they might have still scored. I don't know what in the world happened with the receiver. Like the receiver had no idea the ball was coming, which makes no sense why you wouldn't turn your head around on a deep route. At some point, you got to turn around. He had no idea the ball was coming. Those are the kinds of things that I'm curious about. How well will the Florida State receivers, and again, you got Deuce, you got Javen Boggs, who set the Florida high school football record for yardage, and you also have a guy like Danzy's one of the fastest human beings on planet Earth. Literally, it's statistically proven. If you're mixing that in with a pretty talented offensive line and running back room, and oh, by the way, you got Riles coming in. It's a good tight end. Landon Thomas. If it was, I don't care which one it could be Daniels, it could be Marshall or anybody else. You can really rocket it up, right? Well, let's think about it from another perspective. Who are some of the teams that have more skill talent than Florida State combined with a quarterback you trust? Like I'm not going to sit here and say, I know Florida State's going to be good at quarterback this next. Hell, I don't know which one it will be for sure that's going to start. This guy right here. I openly admit that. But even so, think about the guys around college football, the difference in the jump. Marcel Reed at Texas A&M. He took a jump last year. He's still a little turnover prone. I don't think he reads. Kind of the same thing I was talking about. Malachi, are we sure that Reed's still really good at the game that Miami won at A&M? Reed threw the pick in the end zone. Kind of like the SMU game for Miami when Carson Beck threw a pick down by the goal line. Sometimes it's just, you're not on the same page. But when those quarterbacks are on with those linemen, man, it's just a juggernaut. Defense coordinators are in trouble. If any of the 3 quarterbacks, Sperry, Marshall, or again, I don't care which one it is. Hell, it wouldn't matter if it's Jaden O'Neal. Any of the quarterbacks hit it. Ashton Daniels would probably, again, be my guess to start. But with the players they have on offense, if nothing else this next season, and I still don't think Florida State's going to be that good because I'm very concerned about the defense, they should score some points. Like Notre Dame's offensive line's real good, but they got C.J. Carr. Look at Ohio State's offensive line. It's pretty good. They've got ridiculous receivers, but they also have a Heisman-level quarterback. You don't have to have Carr or Julian Sayin to score points, but Gus's offense puts you in a bind. And you look across the college football, the teams that are that next step, it's just quarterback. It's as straight at you as it gets. It is time for Florida State to have a quarterback. And again, we'll figure out who that is in the fall. The teams kind of fear. Tommy had a few moments early on in the season, but he got hurt almost immediately, and he was never the same. They need some luck at quarterback with injuries too, by the way. But who else do you really fear around college football next year at quarterback? If Mensah goes to Miami, he'll kill it. They've, Malachi and the kid that would probably transfer with him, Barkate, and some of those other guys they have coming up the ranks. Who else? Carr, okay, that's obvious. Definitely Carr and Sayin are probably 1A, 1B for the Heisman race next year at the quarterback position. But Arch, maybe. Marcel Reed, maybe. Definitely Sam Leavitt. But does LSU have that offensive line? We'll see. There aren't many combinations that are really that much better than what Florida State has, at least from a raw talent perspective. And that's why I keep bringing up continuity, the playbook, who plays well in spring, all those things in the offseason for Florida State, because again, while the defense, I have very little faith in Florida State's defense next year. They didn't spend in the stratosphere of enough money on defense in the portal to get where they need to go. They did. Having said that, why couldn't Florida State average 35 points a game? Because all the teams I just mentioned, they all have their own holes in one way, shape, or form as well. Even like Notre Dame, like they got a tremendous offensive line coming back. They're relying on a couple portal receivers. That doesn't automatically, and they're talented, two guys from Ohio State. That doesn't mean they're going to mesh with Carr. Whether it's Ashton Daniels, whether it's Malachi, I don't care. Florida State, they could have a really good offense if some of these portal guys hit too. There's a lot of risk, but every one of the teams that I talked about that I think are going to be upper echelon, Sorsby going to Texas Tech, there's a quarterback there. So my final point and question at the same time, will this finally be the year, if bare minimum and nothing else, Florida State's offense is just fun to watch at home and on the road? I talked about that recently. This crap about Florida State can't play away from Doak has got to go. It's insane. That's my other thing. They can't keep doing that. Well, why not this year? Because you look around college football, the teams that get it done now, you've got to be able to throw it consistently. You've got to have a quarterback that teams fear. Florida State's got some pretty good athletes. One of them needs to hit. Let's see if it happens. Thank you very much for checking out Locked On Seminoles. I truly appreciate you stopping in. Please like and subscribe. We will see you again soon right here on Locked On Seminoles.